Welcome back to Tiny Grimes Games, and I'm here with another Star Wars Destiny video. And today we're going to have a let's learn how to play this game, starting from scratch. So the way this works is you're going to get your starter decks. You're going to put them out like this, a character on each side. You'll put their dice next to them. You'll put your deck over here, and you're pretty much ready to roll. We'll talk about deck building rules in another video. So where you start is you go ahead and just draw up 5 cards. So we'll see what the light side gets here. The light side gets some pretty interesting cards. Jedi Robes is great off the jump. Much of these cards are not that great, so we'll go ahead and put them back and mulligan. You can mulligan as many cards as you want on this opening hand. And if you haven't played the starter decks before, you might not know this, but BB-8 is a really great card to get right off the start. Jedi Robes is as well because you get an extra shield. Go ahead and shuffle back up. Draw the other ones. And we didn't get BB-8. That's okay. We did get some other decent stuff. We got a staff that we could play maybe next turn. Alright, so this is how you start the game. The dark side will go ahead and draw their cards now. The dark side isn't incredibly thrilled with its hand. It's going to throw most of these cards back and go ahead and mulligan. Alright, taking a look at what the dark side has now. Again, not that great. In the starter decks, they're imbalanced in a way where the light side has more early game ramping potential, whereas the dark side has some really strong late game cards. So we'll see which one plays out. Alright, so once we're happy with our hands, both sides will go ahead and roll up their dice to see who chooses the battlefield for the game. Whoever has the most points will get to decide who gets the battlefield. Now this can be a really critical decision, as you can build entire decks around a single battlefield. And if you do that, then you're really wanting to choose the battlefield. It looks like the light side has more numbers. But what happens more times than not, that I've found so far at least, is that the person who wins will just simply take the shields. There's really very little advantage to going first in the first turn, but shields are a huge deal. And this is really interesting. This light side battlefield, it is gone. I'm simply deleting it. It will never see play again. Whatever battlefield gets chosen, it is for the entirety of the game. And so that's why having the option to choose the battlefield is really important. So this one simply says, claim it, remove a character die. So we'll get to how that works in a moment. Alright, so the light side chose to make the dark side's battlefield the battlefield. That means the dark side gets to go first. So each side will start a round with 2 more resources. They do carry over, so it's a really good way to try to set up a big turn, to make a big play. For instance, the dark side has a TIE fighter that it would love to get out. That's really strong, and it'll probably save at some point to try to get it. All right, so we have events, we have upgrades, and mostly this hand is events that this person really doesn't want to use. These are not wonderful events for what's showing. So kind of in a pickle, probably just going to play the infantry grenades, which also isn't that amazing of a card, to be honest. But he's going to go ahead and do it. Feels like it doesn't have a lot of choices. The nice thing is, at the end of the round, you can discard as many cards as you want and then draw back up to 5. So there's a lot of fluidity in your hand. But I must warn you, if you're playing with just the starter decks, decking is incredibly easy. However, once you get to the main decks, it will not be as easy. So now we're to the coolest part of this game, and that is simply, I take an action, you take an action. So the dark side took its action. It played the infantry grenades, and now the light side gets a turn. So although the dark side didn't especially love this grenades, it is a die, and you'll find out that the more dice you can get out, really the better chance you have to win. So the light side is a bit torn here. Does it take the Jedi Robes, which becomes a lot more powerful turn 1, or does it simply try to save for a lightsaber, or just play Rey's staff? And I think it's just going to play Rey's staff on Rey. You have the 2 shields on Rey, so now Rey has 12 health essentially. Shields basically soak up damage. Alright, so she has her staff ready to go. It's now the dark side's turn. Dark side doesn't have any money left. The only event it can even play that costs 0 is this Enrage. If you look at the upper left-hand corner, you can see how many resources they cost. So Enrage is free, but Darkside's not really all that eager to play it. It's going to go ahead and exhaust Kylo Ren and roll some dice and see what he gets. A resource, another resource. Very interesting. We just talked about how the dark side doesn't really have much in hand to be able to play. And it's one of the really interesting things about this game is normally resources would be fine, and resources could be fine. You could just discard this whole hand and draw back up next turn. So we'll see what dark side does. Light side, actually, I made a mistake there. Rey is supposed to get an extra action if she wanted to. So we'll say, though, that she didn't want to on the first turn. She's going to try to save some actions to see if she can have more actions than her opponent and get extra actions at the end of the turn, essentially. Okay, Rey didn't roll particularly well, but that's okay. One of the things you get to do each turn is choose which actions you want to take. So basically, everything you do is an action. I take an action, you take an action, and you may be asking, what's an action? Everything's an action. Play an event, action. Play an upgrade, action. Activate one of your guys to roll dice. Well, that's an action too. Resolving your dice, that's an action. So basically, every single thing is an action. And one other really important note is that we put these upgrades on the characters before rolling them, because once you roll a character, once you activate that character is activated. They cannot be activated again, and that would mean the die would just sit on this character waiting for the next turn, the next opportunity to roll it. All right, so she has rolled her dice. Not great, but that's okay. Darkseid is going to go ahead and roll with its other character. They're going to exhaust the Stormtrooper and roll it up. Ooh, so they got the special. The special is interesting. Deal 2 damage to each of an opponent's characters, but then discard the upgrade from play. Now, if we had the light side's battlefield, which loops upgrades, that's super strong. But the dark side's battleground got chosen, not quite as great for this particular card. All right, so it's the light side's turn. The dark side doesn't have any resources, so the light side doesn't have to burn this melee damage right away. One of the important things to note is whenever you resolve a type of die, a melee die, a resource die, a special, you can resolve any number that you want of that type of die. So one strategy would be to try to roll a bunch of melees with Rey, because if you look at Rey, she has one that says +2, and if they say +2, that means you have to have the other one already there, the base. Basically, it's +2 melee, but 0 + 2 = 0 in this game because you don't have anything to add it to. So it's a reason to try to keep this one out to add the plus to it. However, there's all kinds of cards that will wreck and disrupt your dice. But if they don't have any money out, it's less likely that's going to happen. So the light side is just going to go ahead and exhaust Finn and see what they get there. And they got a resource. So that's interesting. The light side actually has cards it could play for a resource, or, well, 2 resources. It could even play this lightsaber for 1. One of the really interesting and intriguing rules about this game is when you play an upgrade, you can destroy another upgrade on a character and just pay the difference. So I could put this lightsaber on Rey for the low cost of 1 if I was willing to discard the staff. Now that wouldn't be that great of a play, but you can make some serious power plays, like playing the spoiled Force something, the Obi-Wan card, which is incredibly strong but costs 4, but I could play it for only 2. Alright, let's go ahead and let the dark side take its turn. So dark side will go ahead, resolve this die, do 2 damage to both people. Unfortunately, has to discard that card. So now it lost its die, but it was a sacrifice, right? So we put 2 damage on Finn. We soak up the 2 damage with Rey's shields. And light side's not too sad to see basically the dark side paid its 2 resources to do 4 damage. Is that going to be a good trade-off in the end? We'll see. Alright, one of my favorite things about this game is the opportunity to simply discard a card in your hand to re-roll any number of dice you want of your dice. So it's an interesting question. We're definitely saving this die. We want our melee damage. And the resource is interesting as well, because if we were to save it, we could play the lightsaber next turn, which is an incredibly strong card. It has something called redeploy. So even after a character is defeated, it just moves over to the other character. It doesn't actually go away. Those resources are never used up until you lose. So it's an incredibly strong card from that perspective. So I think Lightside is going to keep that resource die. And in fact, it's going to go ahead and resolve it and take the resource. So now we're back to the dark side's turn. The dark side has this really weird problem. They have 3 resources showing, but they have nothing to use them on. So they have this interesting problem of they're going to have to discard a lot of these cards anyway to create space to be able to do things. So if that is the case, it's probably better to just discard one to do something. It's going to go ahead and discard this card to re-roll all three of them, actually. Resources are all well and good, but damage is going to be better. Oh, and we got two of Kylo's special. Oh my goodness. So Kylo Ren's special says, choose an opponent's character, then look at a random card in that opponent's hand and deal damage to that character equal to the cost of the card you just looked at. This is the very definition of an RNG card, right? So if they happen to have Millennium Falcon in their hand, boom, 5 damage to their face. That is crazy. It is not unblockable damage, by the way. It's just regular damage. But still, that is insane. But if they have some zero cost cards like Unpredictable, it suddenly does nothing. But it's going to be really strong. He's going to get to resolve that twice. All right, so light side is up. I think the light side will just go ahead and re-roll these two. And it's because it sees these specials, light side's thinking, maybe we toss the saber, but we really don't want to. But we will toss a 2-cost thing. The robes is really great turn 1, not as great moving forward after that. So they're going to toss the robes to re-roll a couple dice. They're going to re-roll these two. Go for some damage or some resources, either one. Okay, got a resource, got a blank. Blank wasn't exactly what the light side was going for. Kylo Ren's looking at this and he's like, I'll resolve both specials, actually. Which is a very interesting rule, that it's all the same type of face, and this is special, so he's going to resolve both of them. It's going to happen one at a time, though. I'm going to close my eyes and just wiggle my mouse around and see where it ends up. Oh my goodness. It ended up there. That's 3 damage. So he had to declare it first. He would have declared Rey. Rey is the main target here, although Finn does have 2 damage. Normally you would go for Rey, though. Just the 2 dice is too much. Alright. We're going to shuffle these cards up a little bit. Alright. Let's try it again. Kylo, Kylo, Kylo. We're way over there, so we'll say it was the 0. Alright. So 0 damage that time. So he got the highs of the special and the lows of the special. Alright. So we're back to the light side. Light side is going to... Block is a super good disruption card, but it's really expensive, and so it's very difficult to figure out what you want to do with it. Light side is going to simply discard it and re-roll these two. Oh, see, now this very situation I described came up. We got a plus. If we had already resolved this melee, this plus would be worthless. We would not be able to add it to anything. So the light side is very happy that it took that gamble. It did allow the dark side to possibly do some disruption, but the disruption never came. So dark side is going to discard another card, re-roll this one, and hope to get something out of that stormtrooper. They did not. The light side will resolve its melee damage as many as it wants. It only has the 2, and it is 3 damage. So we'll stick the 3 damage on Kylo Ren. Again, killing the guy with the 2 dice. Though admittedly, killing the stormtrooper could be good because he's so fragile. They're going to go for the stormtrooper and just try to isolate Kylo. Getting 1 card on the board is really strong because it's less dice. Alright, Darkseid has an interesting problem. Does it discard any of these cards? I don't think it wants to. The problem is the stormtrooper has two sides that are blank and 1 side that costs a resource. And so these the sides that have the 2 guns plus a 1 resource, that means it costs that. So it really only has 3 sides that are actually going to roll anything that we can resolve. So it's a 50-50 shot, but might as well. We'll go ahead. This will probably be the last time they try. Oh, and they hit it. They hit the big 2 damage. Light side has a real big choice here. It is going to actually take the battleground instead of resolving its battlefield, that is. Once you resolve the battlefield, you're done. You're done for the turn. But you get to do the claim effect. So, light side is foregoing the opportunity to do anything else, including resolving this die. It just goes away now to resolve this battlefield. But it worked out pretty well because the claim is remove a character die. Okay, remove that character die. Suddenly the dark side's going, well, you got me. Like, I spent that time re-rolling it, and you just took it anyway, so I guess we're done. Let's move on to the next turn. So at the end of the turn, we go ahead, stand everybody up, and then we make choices. We're going to draw back up to 5 cards, knowing we're going to get 2 more resources at the start of the turn. So knowing that, the light side's actually pretty darn happy with their hand. They're just going to go ahead and grab 3 more cards and hope that they're all great. Oh, we got BB-8. BB-8 is real exciting. Dark side will also keep the 1 card they have. It's a fine card. It gets resources. Resources are very tight in this game, only getting 2 and not really getting a guarantee to get more ever. Oh, dark side got some good cards. So they got Intimidate, which removes all the shields from a character. Right now, the light side doesn't have any, but shields can be incredibly good at mitigating damage. Power of the dark side is great with the Stormtrooper. It lets you exhaust it to do a free reroll. If it's a blank, 2 unblockable damage. Oh, Stormtrooper loves to hear that. And they picked up Outflank, which can be a useful card as well. If there's 1 die you want to pluck off. All right, so dark side gets its 2 resources. Light side gets its 2 resources. Since the light side took the battlefield, they're up to bat. All right, so with 3, all kinds of options here. The light side could go BB-8 plus the F-110 rifle, which also has redeploy, by the way. Or it could just simply chuck out a lightsaber and be pretty happy with that. And you know what? The light side is going to do exactly that. It's going to throw this lightsaber out. And because it's Rey, they can take another action. And the light side is indeed going to just go ahead and roll Rey's dice and hope A, that it gets an amazing roll, and B, the dark side doesn't have a way to disrupt it. I mean, theoretically, if it's starter on starter, you just saw the dark side discard block, which is the main way to disrupt this. So it's not a bad roll. We got +2 and a 1, which is 3, and the special on the staff, which lets you remove a damage die. So that's a pretty solid start. Dark side is looking at this and going, okay, if I roll and I get a good damage, they just pull it off. So how exactly am I supposed to react to this? Because the light side has less characters, not exhausted, the dark side could play flank and just maybe pluck off this one, making the +2 worthless. That's a real possibility, a real thought process. Could simply enrage to get a 3rd resource, which really doesn't do much. I think what the dark side is going to do is just simply play Power of the Dark Side. It's a nice strong card. It sort of delays the information to the light side of what it's planning to do. By the way, the light side did have to pay 3 resources for that saber. It was not a free saber. All right, so light side is just going to go ahead and resolve this then, so that no disruption comes. And the dark side is kind of looking at that and going, maybe we should have gone ahead and disrupted that. Maybe. The thing is, it's still only 3 more on the Stormtrooper. He has 7 health. He's taken 6. So, like, it's not that much of a difference, right? That guy's going to die anyway. Maybe using the dice and getting to save flank is better. I don't know. Probably not. Probably they should have just played flank. Okay, so dark side's up. Light side just went. Dark side will go ahead and roll Kylo's dice and hope for some crazy roll again. Those 2 specials was pretty amazing. Another special. But this one needs a resource. So if you look, no resources. They spent them already. Oh, that's unfortunate. All right, light side is up. Light side can't remove that because it's not a melee or a ranged. And there's no real reason to remove this one either because it's simply, okay, he can't resolve it yet. So light side, I think, is just going to roll Finn and probably hope that this is a resource so that they can play BB-8. BB-8's a really strong card. It's a damage, which will kill the Stormtrooper. So that's great. I think at this point, well, they used their 1 by buying Power of the Dark Side. So they don't have the 1 for flank anymore. So it looks to me like the Stormtrooper is dead. So what they'll do is just roll the Stormtrooper to sort of make the light side kill that Stormtrooper right away. They rolled another one that requires a resource. Uh-oh. That's not good. All right, so light side does exactly that. Okay, fine. I'll just do the 1. Stormtrooper, dead. Ugh. That's unfortunate. It's now 2-on-1. And his die goes away forever. Darkseid says, alright, let's do it, Ray. Let's special you. Moving blindly. Boom! And it's BB-8. That's 1. So 1 damage to Ray. Ray's up to 4. That's not that bad. Stormtrooper's already dead. And the light side only has this 1 die worth re-rolling. They're in kind of a weird spot. I'm not a big fan of the F-110 rifle. I know it's redeploy. I just don't love it. I also don't like Let the Wookiee Win very much. I'm going to toss Let the Wookiee Win. Let the Wookiee Win is a card I'll do a review on sometime. It gives your opponent too many choices. It's less here because Kylo is the only character left. And so it might have been worth it in that regard. Alright, Darkseid, you know, not in a great spot. There's no shields around. Neither of these characters have a real easy way to get shields, so it's going to discard a card to re-roll this die. Again, it's my favorite part of the game, is you're never out of it. Another special. Oh, man. Oh, light side's looking at their hand going, we got a 2 and a couple of 1s. Maybe we should just discard this card and get rid of that die. And in fact, roll both dice. Sorry, not get rid of the die, but make it less impactful. So they will. And they're going to roll both dice because at this point, the Darkseid doesn't have any more dice left. They're not going to be able to do anything too interesting. Alright, +1 resource. So that's worthless because there's no regular resource. So Kylo Ren will go. He'll do his thing again, blindly moving. Again, it's BB-8. 1 more damage to Ray. That's stacking up pretty fast just from specials. Now there's an interesting point. The Darkseid has nothing left to do. They're going to take the battleground. And the battlefield. And if you look at the battlefield, it says remove a character die. It doesn't say anything about an upgrade. So the only thing it can remove is Ray, which is worthless anyway. But if we tried to discard to re-roll it, the Darkseid would immediately claim the battlefield and then just remove that die. So there's no reason at all to mess with it. Just go ahead and resolve that. 1 damage to well, he's dead, so 1 damage to Kylo Ren. And now the Darkseid looks around and says, well, you know what? So there's a really interesting decision point here. Does the Darkseid care about going first next turn? I don't think it does. And if it doesn't, it can try to bait the light side into making a mistake. So you're allowed to pass, and as long as your opponent doesn't pass, you can still take actions. So the Darkseid's going to say, pass. Let's see what you do. Hoping that the light side is foolish enough to say, okay, I'll discard a card and re-roll this Ray die. And then when it does, the Darkseid will immediately respond by taking the base and removing the character die. Light side sees this coming, says, I'll take the base, it's mine, turns over. Nice try, Kylo Ren, and your trickery, but not this time. And I didn't even use Power of the Darkseid. I didn't even need to. It just did so well. Alright, I think I did make a reroll, though, and forgot to, so that was my mistake. Alright, let's go ahead and reset again. So we're back to the beginning of the turn. We know that each side's going to get 2 resources when we go ahead and take our discard and draw back up. Again, light side likes its hand. It's going to draw 3. Oop, that didn't work out. 1, 2, 3. Dark side, a little bit less happy with its hand. It already has the Power of the Darkseid out. Doesn't really feel like it needs another one. Only has 1 character. Flank is going to be less impactful. Does like Enrage. Because if we draw the TIE Fighter and we're down to 11 cards, having 3 would be really good. And that's really the only way the Darkseid is going to win this one is if it comes up with some really good plays and cards, and it didn't get them. It got Dodge, which is nice to pull off range damage, but there's not that much coming from just Finn's 1 die and no guns. Lightsaber might be decent. So Close Quarters Assault is really interesting. I do not think this is a very good card, but in the starter decks, it's amazing because it's really easy to deck people. The light side only has 9 cards left in the deck, and if it can show 3 melee and pull 3 cards out of a hand, this card actually wins games at the end of the game. So they're going to hold on to it, see if they can do a sneak attack, deck out the light side, win. Light side will be aware of this, though. Alright, so light side is going to go ahead and play BB-8. He's awesome. He's even better early, but he's still good late. Darkside's in a real pickle here. Like, okay, there's really nothing to do other than just roll Kylo. But they will, remember, if you want to put an upgrade, you got to do it first. So they really want this lightsaber, so they're going to go ahead and play this card, Enrage, do 1 damage to a blue character. There's only one, that's Kylo, and get a resource. So Darkseid has 3. So light side, its ears perk up, right? Like, oh my goodness, it's probably X-Wing, or the TIE Fighter, that is. Do I have a counter to that? Do I have a way to pull one of these resources off? And you know what? I don't. That is unfortunate. So, since I can't pull it off, I'm just going to have to move on and roll BB-8, see what we get. Okay, a resource. It's not terrible. Darkseid is going to use those 3 resources that it gathered and get a lightsaber. Lightsaber is so good. Lightsaber is really good on Kylo Ren too. There's a possibility to roll with resources for 7 damage with enough resources. But even without any resources, being able to go 1, 2, plus 2 is 4. That's a pretty good swing. Alright, so it is the light side's turn though. Light side is kind of waiting to flank Kylo Ren and pull off one really good die. So Finn is going to not roll for a while. But we're going to roll with Rey first. He's got a lot of dice to be resolving before we have to resolve Finn. Or before we have to activate Finn, that is. Alright, so what do we get? A +2. Ooh, that's nice. Oh, uh-oh. A +2, but nothing to pair with it. But these are such good dice. If Kylo rolls a good damage effect, it gets pulled off with that. If he rolls maybe a special, it's going to get pulled off by flank. Kylo's in a really bad spot here, and he doesn't, like, he knows he's in a bad spot, but he doesn't realize how bad it is. It's really bad. And looking at his hand, these all cost resources. He doesn't have any. The only card he could play is Close Quarters Assault, and it's not going to do much here. Alright, so we'll see what happens. Kylo's just praying for a big roll and doesn't realize he's getting blown out any which way he goes. He got a special, so he's like, ooh, maybe. Maybe he's got something awesome in his hand. Lightside says, no. I'm going to flank you. Flank says, play only if you have more ready characters than an opponent. We do. 1 to 0. Remove one of that opponent's dice. Oh, sorry. When it says remove a die, it means that's in play that has been rolled. So, like, the dark side couldn't have removed Finn's die here that hasn't even been rolled yet. Okay, so it's Darkseid's turn. Darkseid's turn went from being really promising to full of bitterness and disappointment. So it's going to go ahead and play Power of the Dark Side and try to roll this one maybe to another special. Or maybe to a blank and do damage that way. Nope, got a shield. Kylo may need shields. Alright, light side. Sees that the dark side doesn't have any mitigation, and this is a plus. It's pretty tempting to reroll. Before any rerolls happen, though, we would want to do this guy, but we're going to go ahead and do lightsaber. Deal 2 unblockable damage to a character. That's pretty solid. So, Kylo Ren, he's moving up to 4 damage now from 2. Kylo Ren is not doing well against the dual threat here. It's really just Rey on Kylo, with Finn going, go Rey! I got 10 health to support you. I won't die. Alright, Kylo gonna take the shield, I guess. Hope that between the shield and the resource, and only 7 cards left, that the TIE Fighter is coming and that will bail him out. It will not, but that is his hope. Okay, so with just this resource left, and knowing the only thing he could roll is that lightsaber to a 3x, but it needs a resource, we don't have to use this special. So we're going to go ahead and re-roll Finn's die first, but almost assuredly we're going to be re-rolling that die. Alright, another resource. It's an interesting situation where the light side, there's nothing they're really ramping into. Like, they're pretty much set up, whereas dark side has all these cool cards that are coming. Alright, so dark side says, sure, I'll resolve this resource. Now light side has a bit of a conundrum, knowing that this is coming. A character die is getting removed, and so that's kind of scary. That could really mess things up. Something good is going to go away. Light side is not going to get rid of Close Quarters Assault because, as I said, it's a real win condition in these starter decks. So it's going to get rid of Dodge, which doesn't do anything anyway against Kylo. It basically says remove all dice that are showing range damage. Well, the range guy is dead. So he's going to go ahead and re-roll everything. Like, these resources aren't bad, but they're not that needed in once we're to the late game for the light side as much. All right. Well, that was kind of an awful reroll. Dark side will indeed take the battlefield, trigger it to remove a character die, and they're going to remove this die. This die's a +2. It can be triggered. They could have done something slick and tried to remove Finn's die, but there was a really good chance between the staff and Ray with 2 cards in hand that one of them would have indeed rolled a melee, and this removes 2 of them. So light side looks at this and says, okay, let's do another reroll. I'm not getting rid of close quarters assault. It's too good. It flat out wins games in the starter decks. So, oops, that was not supposed to roll. That was set number 3. So we're going to roll these 3 dice that aren't doing anything. Let's see what we get. Oof. Not wonderful. But BB-8 special is so good. BB-8 special says roll this die and one of your other dice. So he's going to choose this blank Ray die and just laugh. Do his thumbs up. Oh my goodness, that was ridiculous. So we got another 2, 3, 4. Poor Kylo Ren will resolve them all. And notice, we just get to do anything we want because the dark side took the battlefield. And once you take the battlefield, that's it. So it's 4, -1 for the shield is 3 more. Kylo Ren is at 7 of his 11. That's not great. And to make matters worse, let's put a shield on Rey. Ray is only taking 5 damage. Finn is only taking 2. We're going to move to the end of the turn. Light side is exhausted. All it wants to do, it's going to keep this card. Like I said, it wins games. It's going to drop 4 more. Nothing super impactful, but they're all decent. So this one lets me move damage around if one guy looks like they're going to die. This one is basically the same card. It lets me put damage wherever I want instead of on the character my opponent wants, get a shield. And then this card is really interesting, especially in the starter, because it lets you resolve one of these pluses that we were talking about that you cannot normally resolve, as if it didn't have a plus, which can be incredibly strong with Rey and the staff. Well, I guess the staff doesn't have any, but the lightsaber does. Like, there's a lot of rolls that can be pluses. All right, Darkseid looks at its hand. 7 cards left in the deck. Aim is not going to be valuable. Dodge is probably not valuable, and it also has the win card, so it's going to keep it drop 4. It's a little dangerous, drawing a lot, but I really don't think this one's going to come down to the end to decking. I think Kylo Ren is going to die. All right, so we got another rifle. Not that exciting, putting a rifle on Kylo Ren. Use the Force is really cool, turning a die to any side. Immobilize is quite good. It gives a lot of shields, which is great for Kylo in his current predicament. But you can also take an action and just pull this die off the field and turn a different die to a blank, which is really good, and a shield. So Darkseid's pretty happy with its cards, except that it didn't get the X-Wing still, and there's only 3 left in the deck. So I think he's going to lose before he sees his X-Wing, but he kind of played that turn hoping to get an X-Wing. It just didn't happen. I think Kylo Ren is in big trouble. He's going to play Immobilize to just get another die. Dice are always good. It's kind of late though to be thinking that Immobilize is going to save him. All right, so light side is up. Light side is just going to simply roll with Rey. Right? Like there's no upgrades to put on Rey right now, so just might as well roll. Roll with Rey and go to town. Maybe just roll the lethal. Wow, 0 damage. Even that special, not a special that hurts Kylo Ren. Kylo Ren laughs a bit. Oh, child, I knew you could not damage me. Rolls his 4, and even if he gets a lot of damage, it's somewhat irrelevant. All right, 2 shields, or a shield, 2 resources, and a damage. I think Rey will just take off the damage. That's the special of the Rey staff. Remove a die showing damage. So this neuters Kylo Ren's turn even farther. Again, resources aren't helping him a ton. He can use the Force to try to turn a die to make something interesting happen. I think what he'll do instead is just take cover and get a shield. Shields are really good. Keep him alive a little bit longer. So he's basically at 6 now instead of 7. Go ahead and just roll BB-8. And I did not exhaust these cards. Alright, nothing. Blanks. Blanks for days. Darkside cannot remove them. He's trying to decide what the right play is here. I think the best play is to use Power of the Darkside, which I did not unexhaust last turn, and re-roll Kylo Ren's die. Another resource here is not going to be what wins the game. Well, the shield probably doesn't eat it, but maybe. All right, Light Side is going to go ahead and roll out Finn. And one resource. Again, not that valuable. All these dice are getting rerolled for the light side. Dark side knows that. Now, the dark side's in a real predicament here where if it takes these shields and just says, let's stall, let's play for another turn, it's probably going to die. Most likely he's going to get decked. And it's not if you draw up the rest of your cards, it's if you don't have any in hand. But both sides know the other one has this close quarters assault. So although Kylo Ren is getting wrecked and would die eventually, I believe he's going to get decked. He's going to go ahead and take the shields, though, because he doesn't have a lot of options. If he discards his cards to re-roll, he gets himself closer to being decked. So he's in a bit of a pickle. All right, light side. They've used everybody. It's time to do a re-roll. I like all of these cards, actually. I don't want to toss any of them. I'm going to toss Awakening, which is a fine card. That is not an indictment of the card. It is simply, dude, we got a lot of blanks. We gotta do some rolling. Okay. Didn't exactly fix things. Like, it's pretty much the exact same scenario it was before. So that's good for the dark side. Dark side's just gonna pass. So it has two options here. It's to resolve this for a resource and play this rifle, which is reasonable. But there are some good upgrades that it might want to play anyway on him, and since we're so close to decking, maybe it's better just to not play the rifle. Also, by passing, you leave open the option of doing Immobilizes action, which is turning something to a blank. If Rey rolls some really amazing roll, then we can just blank it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and do all these cards are good again. Take cover. Take cover I love, by the way, especially in this spot, but we're going to roll it off anyway. We're going to leave that +2 on Rey, hoping that, not only hoping, but more likely than not, we're going to have a melee come up from here. There's quite a bit of melee in there. It'll be kind of unlikely. More blanks. We did get the spin card. This is a really powerful die that lets me choose any one of my dice and spin it to any side I want. So I will be able to spin, say, Rey to a damage side. Light side, dark sides are going to pass and say, okay, let's see what you got. Actually, I don't think he can. I think he has to do this. Oh boy, it's so bad. If he does this to turn this to a blank, they're just going to re-roll it again anyway. So he's going to pass. Light side will go ahead and resolve these dice to do 3 damage to Kylo. That's all of his shields gone. It's going to be a real race. Does Kylo get decked or does he die? That's going to be the mystery here. Light side. Light side is confident that it's not going to die. So just going to re-roll both of these dice. And then we have BB-8 to be able to do his thing also. Okay. Didn't work out quite how the light side wanted, but it's going to work out fine. So dark side still going to wait. Not much to do. Light side will go ahead and turn this to the special. Dark side will resolve their die to use the action to turn it back to a blank. Light side, knowing that the dark side's next turn is to claim the battlefield and remove a character die, goes ahead to resolve its last character die to take yet another resource it does not need. And then now the dark side will take the battlefield. This is not a character die, so it does not remove it. And light side's left with an interesting spot of do I reroll or not, and it will. Light side will reroll this die one time. This is actually a kind of a dangerous play for the light side that it didn't need to do. It's not going to reroll again. It used a lot of cards to reroll that it really didn't need to, and now the light side is going to be down to only one card left in the deck, which is kind of dangerous. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next turn, unexhaust everything. Light side has Kylo on the ropes, but Kylo's kind of hanging in here. This immobilize is real annoying between the immobilize and the battlefield. It's frustrating. Now the dark side is not going to discard anymore. There's just too few cards in hand. It's just going to draw up these two and pray that one is a TIE fighter. It is. TIE fighter is packed with damage. So that's great. And nowhere to run is really interesting. Turn each one of your dice showing a blank to any side. I doubt it'll get to play it, but maybe. Light side also just going to draw up. Certainly not looking to deck itself. Looking at these cards, Force Throw with all these resources. Force Throw looks really good. Another copy of Awakening. Another chance to turn a die to any side. Some powerful stuff in hand. In aim even could be really good to turn Finn's die to the side it wants. Okay, so Dark Side is up first though. Dark Side gets 2 more resources and says, boom, let's spend all 3 on the TIE Fighter. Boom. That's a big one. I don't believe the light side has gotten its resources yet either. So they will have 5 now because they did resolve a couple they didn't spend any last turn. So 5 is so many. Because they have so many, let's go ahead and put Force Throw on her. Force Throw is a really strong card. The special especially. Remove a die to deal a character damage equal to the value showing on that die. So to be clear on this, it means if your opponent rolls, say, a 2 damage die, you get to pluck it off, put it back on them used, and do that 2 damage to anybody you want. That is crazy strong. All right. And because it's an upgrade, we get a free action, and Ray's going to go ahead and roll this just massive pile of dice. Anytime you can roll 5 dice at once on a character, that's kind of amazing. Oh my goodness, and they got the Force Throw. That's disgusting. Poor Kylo. Remove damage and Force Throw basically means 2 of the dice are going away, and I didn't pay for that. Let's go ahead and pay for that. And in addition to all that madness, all the disruption, just 3 damage, you know, just a casual 3 damage, which will put Kylo at 10. So, yeah, things aren't looking good for Kylo. So Kylo's looking at this and saying, do I do something like use the Force to turn this to a blank? Like, I can't actually because I spent the money on the TIE Fighter, but if I could, I probably might have to do that. Alright, so Kylo on the ropes, just hoping at this point. He's got 4 dice. He's got Immobilize, which is really strong. Maybe that'll save him. Seems unlikely. That 3 damage alone is going to be probably too much. Alright, so that's, you know, a couple of shields. That could really help him. That could bail him out. But he also has nothing too big to use Force Throw on. So, yeah, we're just going to resolve this. Just boom. 3 damage to Kylo. Kylo is now at 10. He only has 11. We're 1 damage away from seeing Kylo Ren fall. So with that in mind, Kylo says, maybe I should be shielding. Oh, wait. That was an error. Actually 4, because he had the other resource. So Kylo Ren is dead. The light side is victorious. They resolved all 4 of those. That is how you play Star Wars Destiny. I hope you had a good time. I hope you all have fun at the launch parties. That's how the starter decks play out. And I'll see you next time on Tiny Grimes Games.